Welcome, everybody, to the Neutral Zone Infraction Northwest podcast. I'm your host, Drew. We're going to talk about some sports today. I got a big show planned out today for us. I'm going to talk about QBR, passer rating. I'm going to talk about how replay works in the NFL. I'm going to recap Week 4. And, of course, I'm going to light a candle for our good friends, the Seattle Mariners, who failed to make the postseason. So make sure to stick around for all of that. First, I'm going to jump right into Week 4. A lot of crazy stuff happened in Week 4 in the NFL this week. Some of the craziest stuff I'm gonna spell out for you here right now. Julio Jones caught for 300 yards, only the 6th time in the NFL that's ever happened. That's a crazy game. That's an insane game. Matt Ryan, the quarterback for the Falcons, with the team that Julio Jones is on, threw for 500 and something yards. I think it was like 503 or 508. But Julio Jones caught for exactly 300 of those yards. And the Carolina Panthers had absolutely no answer for him whatsoever. I am absolutely flabbergasted that in today's NFL, somebody can catch for 300 yards. Put 2 guys on him. Let somebody else catch for 100 yards in addition to his 150. Don't let one guy catch for 300 yards and a touchdown. That's crazy. That is insane. I think the Panthers are really missing Josh Norman. Now with Cam Newton out with a concussion, they are in trouble, let me tell you what. And as a Seahawks fan, I don't feel too bad about that. I don't feel too bad about that at all. Another crazy thing that happened in the NFL was the Bills blanked the New England Patriots at home. Now, they didn't have Tom Brady, of course, but still, to absolutely shut out a team at home, I don't think it's happened in Foxborough since like 1998 or something crazy. It was insane to watch. I, of course, didn't get that game because I don't have the privilege of NFL Sunday Ticket, but I kept watching the score tick by on the game that I was watching, and it kept being 0 Patriots. I'm like, okay, they got to score 0 to 16, and that's how the game ended. I was very, very impressed that the Bills ended up blanking them, and that Bill Belichick had absolutely no answer whatsoever. Now, they do get Tom Brady back coming this week, so of course their offense is going to jump up quite a few notches, but still, pretty great to see after last week's episode when I called them the evil empire. It's fun to watch them get put down just a peg. Another fun thing that happened on the other side, instead of an offense getting embarrassed, Kansas City's defense got completely embarrassed on Sunday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just got dismantled. Ben Roethlisberger threw for 5 touchdowns. He could have thrown for 10. They really took their foot off the gas there late, like of course they're going to do when you're up 42-6. It was an insane game to watch. The Kansas City Chiefs had no answer. And the game after they put up no touchdowns, scored only 3 points in Philadelphia, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers really responded in a crazy way at home. And I expect that to be more of the same going forward. Sometimes these dynamic teams need a loss early on to really kind of shift their gears a little bit, get their thinking to where they know that they can be beaten. I think for the Seahawks that happened with the Rams, which is great. And the Rams won again. The Rams beat Arizona. So crazy stuff is happening. The dynamic is shifting. I don't know if the Rams are for real or not. I mean, you have to think 3-1 right up there at the NFC West with the Seahawks. You have to wonder, like, what kind of team is this? I still have no idea, and it scares me. I have no idea what kind of team the Rams are. You see them with a tough defense. You see them with a loose defense. You see them score no touchdowns. You see them score 3. It's completely crazy. And it should be really interesting going on because I guess Arizona is not in the class of the NFC West anymore. I guess they decided that with now Carson Palmer injured and they don't have a backup at all. Like there's probably not a worse backup situation in the NFL than the Arizona Cardinals have. But it looks like it's going to be Rams and Seahawks fighting for at least this beginning part of this season to really see who's gonna pull ahead. I think it's going to be the Seahawks. I still don't think the Rams are that good, but they keep proving me wrong week after week. So let's get into the Hawks game now and really go over what happened there in MetLife Stadium. I love MetLife Stadium. That's where we got our championship back in 2013. Excellent field. We seem to always do pretty well there, and it's no different this week at the Jets when we won by 2 scores. Should have won by 3, but we really, a lot of people, including myself, were kind of thinking of maybe the early start time on the East Coast, and that Jets defensive line would really give the Seahawks some problems. And they really didn't. We sort of controlled the game throughout the entire game with our great defensive play. And Russell Wilson, oh my gosh. Of course he played. You all know he played. Even though I was calling for him not to play, he played excellently. He couldn't move like he normally does. He was kind of stuck to the pocket. But anybody who said Russell Wilson's not a pocket passer, he's not a true passer, he's not a good passer, man, you just need to watch that game to know how wrong you are. I mean, of course you could watch 2 years back and know you're wrong too. But that's just such the old moniker of Russell Wilson, and it's not true at all. And he really proved his critics on 2 injured legs that he is an elite passer in this league, and I'm not afraid to say that at all. I think looking around the league, you see what an elite passer really is, and he's right up there. But it was a really good game. So getting into my not so much love Seahawk of the week, this was a hard choice for me. But I ended up on one play in particular. And I'm kind of scapegoating here. I'm not going with one player. I'm going with the entire Seahawks defense on the play where that one Jets rookie ran it in for a touchdown when it was a Ryan Fitzpatrick fumble and not an incompletion. The one where you heard Earl Thomas scream into the referee's microphone, his hand was going forward. Well, according to instant replay, it wasn't exactly going forward. It looked like a fumble, and because it was the last 2 minutes of the game, he was allowed to progress it. Another player, rather than the player who fumbled it, is allowed to pick up the ball and go. He picked it up and go. He picked it up and went. And to no really Seahawks pursuit at all. I mean, Bobby Wagner kind of ran a little bit, but the entire defense sort of let them score some garbage time points there that I wasn't super happy about. You got to play till the whistle. It'll be a good teaching moment for them. It'll be some good film that they can really show in that defensive room to say, hey, this is not Seahawk defense. This is Bush League. And now, I don't think you'll see that happen again this year at all. I think you might see some guys who try to run it into the end zone against the Seahawks get blown up in the future. And I look forward to that. Now, my love Seahawk of the week, this was pretty easy. He started the game covering Brandon Marshall, and he faced some adversity. He had 4 receptions against him. I'm talking about Richard Sherman, of course. Richard Sherman, Love Seahawk Player of the Week. He had some adversity. They were throwing on him. They were completing some passes against him, which no one has really tried up to this point in the season. But Ryan Fitzpatrick thought that he would test him, and they were getting the better of him. They were really completing some passes. Now Brandon Marshall's a big, good receiver. He's got good hands, and he uses his body in a lot of ways to really throw his weight around it and make catches. But with this game, what happened was he had those 4 receptions. It was looking like Richard Sherman was going to have just one of those games, one of those not all-pro games like we were used to seeing from him. And then a horrible and absolutely atrocious pass interference call happened. It was clearly offensive pass interference. Brandon Marshall clearly pushed off of Richard Sherman, and it was called defensive pass interference, and Richard Sherman lost his ever-loving mind. He lost his mind going at the ref, talking to the sidelines, throwing his hands in the air. He had those crazy eyes, those eyes that you see. And then Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you do that to Richard Sherman and you get him riled up and you get him angry, and then he's like, I'm going to throw at you again. Oh, Ryan, not even your Civil War General beard can save you from the wrath. Hell hath no fury like a cornerback scorned. Richard Sherman picked him. He picked him again. He should have picked him 3 times, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But there were 2 interceptions, and really shut down defense from there on out. He really looked that adversity in the face, punched it in the face, choked it, intercepted it, and really led that Seahawks defense to a victory there. I love seeing that. I love seeing people bounce back in game from that kind of struggle early on. Richard Sherman, Love Seahawk of the week. Now, the game itself was really great. I stand corrected on Trevon Boykin. Do I think we still could have won with Trevon Boykin? Yes, I do. But Russell Wilson didn't really take any hits, didn't really take any injuries. He's proven himself to be one tough hombre, which I can appreciate. And the dimes he was throwing, it's fun to watch. This is a great time to be a Seahawks fan. Absolutely fantastic time. As long as we got Russell Wilson, as long as we got Pete Carroll, as long as we have the core of this defense, we will be contenders each and every year. Mark my words. Great time to be a Seahawks fan. Now that's the wrap up on Week 4 in the NFL. But if you're an NFL fan, stick around because I'm going to be talking a lot more about it after my topic of the week, which is the Mariners. And we saw some good fight from the Mariners this year. We had some great moments. We had a lot of walk-off home runs. I was there on my birthday with my family when Adam Lind, June 24th, hit a 3-run homer against the Cardinals to win, surrounded by a bunch of Cardinals fans in my family, and that was a great moment for the Seattle Mariners this season. Now, that night, I think it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday night, when we had that real back-and-forth game with the A's that we ended up having to win in order to remain in postseason contention for the last game of the season, which was on Sunday. We didn't win that. I saw a lot of fight from the guys, and then I saw a lot of pain afterwards with those guys, those old veterans. You got Felix Hernandez, you got Nelson Cruz, Robinson Cano, who just desperately want to make the playoffs, and they fall just short again, like 2 seasons ago when it was by one game that they didn't make it. And in the first season of a rebuilding year, I think that we got a lot of bang for our buck. A lot of pieces on the roster got kind of thrown in. Some of them panned out, some of them didn't. I think all in all, it was a good year. Of course, it hurts when we don't make the playoffs. Next year, it's just going to be like 16 years since we haven't made the playoffs. And, as Mariners fans, it's part of the struggle. But I like where this organization is headed. I like how we're grounded in statistics and player development with Jerry Dipoto up and down the organization. I think that's going to yield a lot of fruit. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this as we kind of go on with this podcast, especially as football winds down and as we gear up for baseball season. But one thing that I want Mariners fans to listen to and to really latch onto is this is going to be an entirely different team next year. Mark my words, some big moves are going to happen this offseason. Let me break it down for you. It's been shown year after year that in order to win, you need young guys with organizational control, maybe with a few veterans sprinkled in there to really drive you to a World Series. And that's what the Chicago Cubs have. They're my World Series pick this year. I'd be pretty shocked if they didn't end up winning it all. Of course, the Red Sox could take it from them, or the Rangers. But I think in the National League they're going to run the table pretty well. Nationals might give them a little bit of trouble, but other than that, I think it's the Cubs, either the Sox or the Texas, and I think that's going to be your World Series. But the Mariners are going to have to make a radical shift to that mindset, and I think Jerry Dipoto is really going to bring the hammer down this year. I think that core group that we're seeing, those 3, 4, 5 guys, Felix Hernandez, I don't know if they're all going to be together next year. I think either Nelson Cruz, who's getting up there in age but is still very productive, or Felix Hernandez, who's getting up in age and is still pretty productive. Those are our 2 biggest trade chips. And as much as I would absolutely hate if either of them got traded, I would feel it especially Felix Hernandez, just because he's a hometown guy. He's wanted to stay here. I would definitely feel that if Jerry Dipoto decided to trade him away and get some prospects, get some chips to kind of rebuild this franchise into a true contender, not a borderline one like we've had these last few years, I think that those are some of the hard decisions that are going to have to be made. I think Jerry's going to have to decide if Taijuan Walker and James Paxton are the future. If they are, then they need to step up. It's time. It's no more you're a prospect. You are the franchise now. It is your job. And I think Robinson Cano stays. I mean, his contract is enormous, gigantic. He's got great production. Robinson Cano's here, leader of the team. We have to decide if Kentel Marte is going to be the shortstop of the future. I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot of upside. And I think that it would be smart to hang on to him and make him that shortstop of the future. He's got to decide if Mike Zunino is that catcher of the future. Now, we saw glimpses of hope from Mike Zunino early on when he got called up, and then towards the end of the season, his average is right back down close to 200. Is it worth it to have his defense back there and his power up the plate to get that average trade-off? I don't know. And I think the great part is it's grounded in statistics. These are the things that Jerry Dipoto is going to decide. I'm expecting a radical shakeup. I'm going to be glued to my phone, glued to Twitter to kind of see all of this as it unfolds. I expect breaking news 1, 2, 3 times this offseason where the Mariners, especially in the winter meetings, maybe look to get some things done, really make some shifts. And, this team is a lot of fun. And if it does get broken up and sold off for the future, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna miss a lot of these guys and the power and the home runs and the fire and tenacity. I'm not gonna miss losing though. It's gonna be sure easy to forget that kind of camaraderie, which a new team would obviously have. If we start winning, if we start, being true contenders, if people start talking about the Seattle Mariners like they talk about the Chicago Cubs now, once the laughing stock of the Major League Baseball, guess who owns the longest postseason drought in Major League Baseball? The Seattle Mariners do. So it's time. Trade them off. Do what you need to do. Build this organization from the ground up. It's not going to happen in a year. It might not happen in 2. But you're going to see that starting to pay dividends. Even the moves he's made this year, picking up Vogelbach, the first baseman. I think he'd be a good one for the future. Those kind of things to move things around and really build this organization from the ground up. Now, RIP 2016 Seattle Mariners. I'm going to miss you. We had a lot of good times. Thanks for the heartache, and see you next year. So I'm going to transition into the part of the show where I answer your questions. And this week I got 2 really great questions that I'm going to answer. You can get your questions read by emailing neutralzoneinfractionnw@gmail.com or tweeting at neutralzonenw. I'll read your question. I'll answer it on a podcast. It'll be a lot of fun. Make sure to, send me those questions. Anything you want me to maybe research, or anything you want my opinion on, sports related, maybe not sports related if it's a good enough question. We'll roll with these questions together, and we'll really get into it. The first question that I got was you wanted to know about passer rating and quarterback rating in the NFL. What does it mean? How is it calculated? What's the difference between passer rating and QBR? Well, I'm going to answer those questions for you. Passer rating in the NFL has been around for, I think, close to 40-ish years. And it really is, it's the NFL specific kind of metric for how they grade passers. And the way it's calculated is it's really, they do completion percentage, so accuracy. They do touchdowns to interceptions. They do yards per attempt. Now, this is a rating anywhere from 0 to 158.3. So it's a little arbitrary in that way. Perfect passer rating has happened 60 times in the NFL. It's happened multiple times for a couple people. In order to get a perfect passer rating, you have to throw at least 77.7% of your passes have to be completions. Your average yards per attempt have to be 12.5. You have to throw a touchdown. You can't throw any interceptions. You have to throw a touchdown on 11.83% of your plays. And you can't throw any interceptions at all. And that's what gets you a perfect passer rating in the NFL. Hard to do, but possible. So that's really that's the metric the NFL uses. It's the one that they created to kind of measure passers in that way. To give you kind of an update this week on passer rating, for example, Drew Stanton, backup for the Arizona Cardinals, was in the game for 13 snaps. He had a passer rating of 6.8. In 13 snaps, he threw 2 interceptions and completed something like 3 passes. So yeah, his passer rating was pretty awful. And that's more that Arizona Cardinals backup situation that just has the Seahawks licking their chops. But on the contrary, you've got Russell Wilson, who had a 133 passer rating this last week. He missed a few. He didn't throw any interceptions, but he was making a lot of long throws. He was completing a lot of his passes. So that's kind of what the spectrum is like in a normal. I'm sure Ben Roethlisberger had one of the highest passer ratings because he threw so many touchdowns. I didn't actually look up what it was, but that's sort of the spectrum that you're looking at as far as passer rating. Now, something not commonly known, but important nonetheless, is Russell Wilson actually owned the highest passer rating in the NFL last year. And these guys are still talking about him like he's not an elite quarterback. That is insane to me. You lead the league in passer rating, the league-wide metric to determine who's a good passer. Now, it's not foolproof. It's not perfect. There are different ways to do it, which I'll talk about in just a second. But he leads the league in passer rating, and they're still like, no, he's not good from the pocket. He's too short. And it's like, what are you talking about? Do you not watch football? It's like you don't get Seahawks games on the East Coast or in the Midwest or in Mountain Time. It's only on the West Coast where we've driven the fear of God into all of our opponents, where people are like, yeah, Russell Wilson, he's pretty good. Pete Carroll got on the podium, and somebody asked him that question, like, oh, they're still not giving Russell the respect. And he's like, anybody who doesn't think that Russell Wilson can throw from the pocket doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. I love that quote. Because it's so true that you don't know what the heck you're talking about. Open your eyeballs and see, you know what? I say before it's all said and done, he's the best quarterback in the NFL. At one point in his career, he will be the best quarterback in the NFL. He will win an MVP trophy. You can put that in the bank. You can write it down in the pocketbook and say, hey, Drew said this. Russell Wilson's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL someday. And I'm like, yes. Take it to the bank. You can put my stamp on that one. I fervently believe that. And that's not biased at all. Only a lot biased, but not biased at all. Now, on the flip side of passer rating, you have ESPN, the juggernaut of sports worldwide entertainment everywhere, now introducing esports, which I'm totally behind, by the way. Esports are awesome. I'll talk about that sometime. But they have developed this other system called QBR. Now, and that's total quarterback rating. And that's a 0 to 100 scale, and it measures all the same thing that passer rating does, except for it adds other elements. It sort of takes into account how your teammates do, what the coverage is, how good of a cornerback is playing on a specific receiver. It has a clutch index. It takes into account sacks that happen on your quarterback. So they, of course, with all their media giganticness, are always about like, this is the better way to do it. Look QBR. Please come to our website. Watch SportsCenter. High five. And, there are aspects of it that I really like. Of course, the NFL official is still passer rating. QBR you don't see really get used as much unless you're watching ESPN. So those are kind of the two metric ways to do it. That's kind of what they are explained. There are, of course, nitty-gritty details that I don't need to go into because you guys are already asleep. But, I mean, which one do I think is better? I don't know. There seems to be a lot of subjectivity in QBR, like a clutch index. Like, what the hell is that? I mean, besides Russell Wilson, give him 100 clutch index or whatever. Like, to talk about you want a fourth quarter drive, yeah, give me Russell Wilson. Thank you very much. Stamp that in the book. Please don't fumble Christine Michael, and we would have won that game too. Anyways, that's really my thoughts on that. I guess I'm more of a fan of passer rating, which our good friend Russell Wilson led the league in last year. And he's on a pretty good pace this year, even with his injuries. So we'll see what happens when it's all said and done. All right, now I'm going to get into the second question of the week. And that one is the first interception that Richard Sherman should have made, but was denied. It was overturned on the field. They wanted to know how that got overturned, because if you watch the video replay, which I did several times, you can't really tell. It's not definitive. So the question was, do NFL referees have different camera angles that they use? Do they, are they seeing stuff that we're not seeing? And the answer is really, NFL referees have access to every camera angle. And honestly, they probably were using angles that we're not seeing. The angles that we're seeing are chosen by Mr. Head Director Producer of Fox Sports that day, or whatever, CBS, NBC. There's a guy in a booth with 10 to 12 other guys who's like, give me this camera angle, give me this camera angle, give me this graphic. And they're mashing it all together to make good television. Because that's what the football is. That's why it's such a giant juggernaut. It's because Americans love their television, myself included, and we want a good program. And they've really they've come a long way in the art of making NFL football, more exciting. Give us slow motion this way. Give us these slow motion outros. Give me all these graphics with all these stats. And honestly, I think there probably were some angles on that play that the NFL referees had access to that maybe weren't as pretty, maybe weren't kind of like great angles. Maybe there was some guy on the sideline with half his thigh bone in the shot and it was blurry and there was a pylon in the way, but you can see the ball come out. Okay, that could have happened, and that's what caused them to overturn the call. And it just didn't get shown on our TV set because that's not good television. NFL film, when players and coaches watch film, that's a completely different animal than the product you get on TV. The product you get on TV, we follow the ball. We follow the ball where it goes, unless the cameraman gets tricked by something, in which case all our eyes follow where the camera does, because that's just science. So, if you're not following the ball, and you're not showing the best thing, that guy in the booth up there calling the shots, he's not really going to put that shot in, because that doesn't make great television. Ratings drives profit. Profit drives the NFL. So it's very possible that referee had a different camera angle. Here's the other possibility. And you see this all the time around the league. Those NFL officials aren't going to make everybody happy. There are so many calls in the NFL because there are so many convoluted rules. The catch rule being the clear, obvious, sore, sticking out thumb that's like, everyone's like, what's a catch? Which is just, it blows my mind. A catch is a catch. You can tell if he caught the ball. He didn't catch the ball here, he caught it here. Easy. But no, now you got to make a football move and you got to get your toe tapped down and all that kind of crazy stuff that's like, was it a catch? Was it not? Let's bring in Mike Pereira to see. And you got him coming in, and he's like, 50 years ago when I was head of the NFL Referee Association, this was absolutely a foul. And then he gets it totally wrong, and the referees go a totally different way. Which just kind of goes to show you there's two, if it's a close call, which I think this one was, you see the ball wiggle. Was it a catch? It was called a catch on the field. Could have very well stood and been an interception. Can also go the other way. So with NFL referees, and this is the worst answer ever, but it's the best one I got. You just don't know. You don't know. It could go either way. Now, I'm not one of those conspiracy theorist types who's just like, oh, they're rigging it. They got Roger Goodell in their headset. There's no way Roger Goodell is on a walkie-talkie in his office watching 8 games at a time saying, hey, that's not a fumble. You should really make this call this time. That's not happening. even even the worst of it, if that were to happen, it would just be like, well, we're going to do our best to help the Jets win this game. It's probably going to be a slaughter either way. Let's have fun, guys. And I mean, that's really the worst that it could be, which I don't think happens either because, there's calls on both sides of most games. A lot of NFL games are close. Anybody can be anybody. And I think that it would be made more apparent if there was obvious favoritism in one way or the other. Kind of like basketball. Kind of how that's a little wonky. But I think in this play, it was just a simple, can go either way. So they went the way of the Jets. Didn't matter. Richard Sherman still got 2 interceptions. It was great to see him have a 2-interception game. I love that Ryan Fitzpatrick tested him. Tested him all day. He tested him, he won. He tested him, he lost. He tested him, he lost. He tested him, he lost. And he lost. Ryan Fitzpatrick lost. It'll be interesting to see if Richard Sherman gets thrown at too much. I'm sure that Matt Ryan will try to throw at him when he's trying to cover Julio Jones. I guarantee it. Julio Jones doesn't get 300 yards against Richard Sherman. I'd be surprised if he got 100, honestly. So, I mean, that's all I got to say about that play. He still got 2 interceptions. Referees make goodish, they make baddish calls. It's really all up in the air. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show with, probably the longest segment. This is where I pick games that haven't happened yet. Now, I had a pretty good week last week. I went 9-6, which is a lot better than 7-9, which I went the week before. I've got a lifetime percentage of .553, which is 26-21, in case you were wondering. That'll go up. Don't worry about it. I got some good picks in this week. So let's start on Thursday night with Cardinals at 49ers. Now, this is interesting. It's more interesting than it should be. The reason why is because I don't know if Carson Palmer's going to go. If Carson Palmer doesn't go, I think the Cardinals get beat up. But you don't know. And the 49ers lost their best player this last week, Navarro Bowman. So there's injuries on both sides. Both teams kind of suck. It should be a fun one to watch, ladies and gentlemen. But in this one, I just think with Bruce Arians in the bounce back, the 49ers really don't have any kind of home field advantage whatsoever because there's going to be more Cardinals fans there than 49ers fans because apparently they don't care about football in the Bay Area. They care about basketball. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, go Cougs. And not really about football. So I think that the Cardinals are going to pull away with this one, especially if Carson Palmer goes. Even if not, I think David Johnson just runs it up their gut with a Navarro Bowman-less defense. So I think the Cardinals are going to win in Santa Clara. The Texans at the Vikings. The Vikings won on Monday night. That was last night for me. Whatever night it was, a go for you. And, they looked good. Their defense is really solid. That is the number 2 defense in the NFL. Now we all know who the number 1 defense is. I'll give number 2 to the Vikings. And, they looked pretty good. And they're going to be at home against the Texans, who, barely escaped the Titans. I picked the Titans to win, but they barely escaped the Titans. And Brock Osweiler's been known to throw a few interceptions in his day. I think the Vikings get 3 picks. I think they take 1 to the house. I think Sam Bradford does enough to get it done at home, and the Vikings go 5-0, which, hot darn, that's a lot of fun if you're a Vikings fan. Hang on to your seat. Hopefully no one else gets injured, and enjoy that beautiful stadium. Next game on the list, we've got Jets at Steelers. Jets are bad. The Jets are bad. Steelers are really good. Steelers are at home. I picked the Steelers. Case closed. Smash the gavel. Steelers at home. Next game, we've got Eagles at Lions. Now, Eagles are coming off a bye week, and everyone in Philadelphia is on the Carson Wentz train. Of course, no one is on the Carson Wentz train more than our good friend John Gruden at ESPN, who I'm pretty sure would adopt Carson Wentz if he had the chance. But in this one, they're going to be at the Lions. Lions didn't look awesome. Lions, they had one impressive victory over the Colts, who turned out are probably a pretty bad team. That's interesting. But, at the Lions, I'm picking the Eagles here until that defense proves me wrong. That defense has been a really good defense. Carson Wentz hasn't made any mistakes. In the NFL, if you've got a good defense, quarterback that can make some plays and make no mistakes, you're going to win most of the time. Eagles at Lions. Next game, we got the Redskins at the Ravens. Now, the Ravens lost their undefeated status against the Raiders, which I called. You can take that to the bank. And the Redskins almost got beat by the Browns. So there's not a lot of really choice here in my mind. I think the Ravens are a better team than the Redskins are. The Ravens are playing at home. They definitely have a distinct home field advantage. And I think John Harbaugh has got them under pretty good control over there in Baltimore. So I picked the Ravens to win over the Redskins. Next game, we've got Bears at Colts. Now, they're both pretty bad. Bears scraped out a win this last week. Colts lost to the Jaguars in London. That's kind of a long flight back home to really not feel great about yourself, but they've got a lot of problems. Andrew Luck's a good quarterback for the Colts, but he can't do it by himself. Their defense is suspect. Their offensive line is suspect. They don't really have a running game. Frank Gore's really old. They need a lot of pieces in a hurry. They've got a quarterback. They've got some decent receivers. I've not seen much else that's really popping off the page for me. So they need to get it figured out in their window of opportunity there with Andrew Luck. They've got one of the worst owners in the league. I don't like Jim Irsay at all. He's talking about winning 2 Super Bowls in the Andrew Luck era. Well, good luck, Jim Irsay. You need to get your guys some help because Andrew Luck can't do them by himself. If he tries, he throws picks. So you got to get him something. That being said, Bears, I don't know if Jay Cutler is going to be back this week. Even if Jay Cutler is back this week, I think the Colts win. So Colts at home over the Bears. Next game, we've got Titans at Dolphins. The Titans, were close to winning against Houston, like I kind of thought they would, but they didn't. And the Dolphins, I honestly don't remember if the Dolphins won this last week. I don't think they did, because I picked them to lose. So, no, they definitely lost against the Bengals. I definitely picked that game. Okay, so, but the Titans and the Dolphins, I think the Titans win here, even in Miami. The Dolphins aren't that good, I guess, really. They need to decide if Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback of the future. I like that young Dolphins coach Adam Gase, who really helped Jay Cutler last year with the Bears. But I don't think that they have enough pieces this season to really contend at all. I like a young Titans team coming in and taking one from them. So Titans to win. Next game, we got Pats at Browns. Yikes. That's a Tom Brady at the helm Pats team coming off a shutout loss at the Browns. Lord have mercy. I picked the Pats to win. Next game, we've got Falcons at Broncos. Now, this one's hard. You've got one of the top defenses. I guess I picked Vikings number 2. Seahawks are obviously number 1. So the Broncos are going to inevitably be number 3 defense. And Drew's list of defenses, which isn't a real thing, but is now. Patent that. And, the Falcons looked really good. They put up big points, big numbers 2 weeks in a row. And the Broncos also look good. They are a really tough defense. I saw Paxton Lynch come in and do enough to win, which is, like I've been saying, is enough to win when you have a good defense. So this one's really hard. It's at the Broncos. The Falcons could come in and steal one. It's kind of a toss-up. I didn't even pick this one beforehand. I don't have an answer here on my sheet. Broncos at home. Stay undefeated. Next game, we've got Bengals at Cowboys. Dak Prescott is doing a lot to sort of stir the pot in Dallas to kind of have him pump the brakes on the Tony Romo train for now. If I was a Dallas Cowboys fan and I had this young quarterback with my young running back and a lot of young pieces with this young offensive line who's really good, I don't know if I would want fragile Tony Romo coming back and ruining the streak that we were on. They're 3-1 right now, the Cowboys are. I'd be interested to talk to a Cowboys fan and really see what the climate is like. I know we haven't really had anything all that close to that in Seattle for a while. Of course, we had Tavares Jackson at the helm before the Russell Wilson era, and people were like, Charlie Whitehurst, and that didn't really work. But, I think that even with Dak Prescott, I think they'll end up going back to Tony Romo just because he's been that franchise for so long. But as far as this game is concerned, with Dak Prescott at the helm against the Bengals, I picked the Bengals to come in and win against the Cowboys. I think that they're gonna end up playing better. Andy Dalton's obviously a better quarterback. I don't think they have any answer whatsoever for A.J. Green. I think A.J. Green might get 300 yards, which is kind of close to what he had the potential of doing against the Dolphins, who have better cornerbacks than the Dallas Cowboys. So it should be interesting to see what happens, but I think the Bengals come in and take a win from the Cowboys. Next game, Chargers at Raiders. If the Chargers do ever end up leading in this game, I'm sure they'll blow it in the fourth quarter, which has been sort of the moniker for this, the stamp, the slogan for the Chargers. Mike McCoy and lose in the fourth quarter. So I have no confidence in them whatsoever, especially at Raiders. So I definitely picked the Raiders to win. That being said, Phillip Rivers is playing out of his mind right now. He's playing really good, especially with all the weapons he's lost. Keenan Allen, Antonio Gates, Danny Woodhead. If you took the three best, that'd be like if Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, and Tyler Lockett went out for the Seahawks. So that's rough for Phillip Rivers, and he's still trying to put up pretty good numbers. Manti Te'o went out on their defense, so really the middle of that whole defense is messed up. They still haven't, their first round pick still hasn't played, which is insane, and that team's a mess. So I definitely pick the Raiders to win at home. Next game, Bills at Rams. This is going to be a good one, I think. A good kind of slugfest defensive matchup. I'll be watching this game closely because it's really going to show me who the Rams really are. Unless, of course, Rob and Rex Ryan come in and lay an egg like they've been known to do. They're either going to hold you to 0 or 3 points or give up 50. It's just a total crapshoot with Rob and Rex Ryan. But I'll be watching this one closely. I think in the Coliseum it should be a good game for the fans there. I hope the Bills win. I think the Bills are actually going to win. Good defensive matchup there. I think ultimately the Bills' offense is better, so I think that they come out of a defensive slugfest ahead. Next game, we've got Giants at Packers, Sunday Night Football. Packers are at home, coming off a bye week, getting probably some of their secondary back. I know that Shields was down, and they had some other banged-up injuries. If Eddie Lacy can ever figure out how to run the ball, which people will say, oh, he looks good this year. He looks fine. But it's not what he needs to be for that offense to really run. And Aaron Rodgers really needs to, be the Aaron Rodgers that we've seen. He actually is 25th in the league right now in yards per attempt down the field. Now that's part of the problem is his receivers can't get open very well. Another part of the problem is I don't know what the other part of the problem is. He's always a weapon. He's always dynamic. He can really huck it. He can really throw a football. He's really smart. He's a really great quarterback, best in the league right now, I think. But he's got to get it turned around sometime. You got to get some of those numbers going his way. Packers fans think so. But I think that it's so hard to go into Lambeau and win. The Seahawks couldn't do it last year, even though we gave them a run for our money, just Aaron Rodgers throwing the lightning bolts around. They were a lot better team last year. But I think that, I still think that even with all those things I just said, that the Packers are a playoff contender. So I don't think the Giants come in and win, especially not with what I saw against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. I think I picked Packers to win at home. All right, last game, Bucks at Panthers. Oh my gosh, I had such a hard time with this one. It depends entirely on whether or not Cam Newton is in the game. If Cam Newton's in the game, Panthers. If Cam Newton's not in the game, Bucks. But I don't know that right now. He has an extra day to recover from his concussion, but honestly, it would probably be better for them to sit him out a game. I don't even know who the Panthers' backup quarterback is. I have no idea. And you know what? I shouldn't know, because Cam Newton should be in there. But if he's not in there, the Bucs are going to win. Divisional game. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tumble. The Panthers' defense is just getting made to look silly, which is crazy with the linebacking core that they have. Yeah, it just goes to prove you really need cornerbacks in this league. You need cornerbacks bad. I'm so thankful for the Seattle Seahawks secondary. I'm just going to hold my heart to that one for a second, because that really hits me deep. Oh, man. If we didn't have them, it'd be a whole different pineapple, ladies and gentlemen. But we do. That being said, I'm picking the Bucs to go in and take a win from the Panthers. That's all the games this week. That's all my thoughts. Remember, you can like, share, subscribe, comment, send your feedback to neutralzoneinfractionnw@gmail.com or tweet at neutralzonenw. Give me your thoughts. Give me your questions. We'll high five. We'll have a great time. Tell your friends. And always, thanks for listening.